Hi, and welcome. This is Inside Without Now. It's a live brought to you by volunteers with Refuse Fascism. I'm Sam. I'm one of those volunteers. Refuse Fascism is a movement of people coming from diverse perspectives, united in the recognition that the Trump-Pence regime poses a catastrophic danger to all of humanity and the planet itself, and that it must be driven from power through sustained mass nonviolent protest now. Tonight we're going to be talking about joining July 4th protests, whoever you are, wherever you are, demanding Trump-Pence out now. I'm going to be joined by Sable and Chantal, organizers with Refuse Fascism in chapters in New York and LA. Take this moment now to share this. In particular, if you're on Facebook, we hope that you will host a Facebook watch party in groups that you participate on. On Twitter, DM your friends and make sure that you retweet it. We want to know what you're thinking. If you have plans for July 4th protests, make sure that you put them in the comment box. If you are someone who has a question, whether it's something that's been a burning question on your mind about how we drive this regime from power, or particulars about organizing for July 4th protests, let us know. And we'll be allowing some time at the end to get into people's questions, comments, plans. If you appreciate these lives and you want to see people in the streets raising this demand and bringing thousands into the streets right now, demanding Trump-Pence out now, please donate generously to support Refuse Fascism. And for those of you who are podcast listeners, be sure to check out episode 6 of Inside Without Now and subscribe to our show. Our latest episode featuring writer Jared Gates Sexton is on Donald Trump's death cult, American mythology, white supremacy, and deadly denialism. So be sure to check it out. We want to also know where you're joining us from and what inspired you to come and tune in and join us. So be sure to put that in the comments as well so that I can greet y'all. Again, this is Inside Without Now. We're talking about wherever you are and whoever you are getting in the streets July 4th, demanding Trump-Pence out now. Before we talk about July 4th protests, let's just take a look at really what was an insane past 24 hours. The Supreme Court effectively lifted the moratorium on federal executions. This is happening as Trump threatens protesters with draconian penalties. Police in New York City and San Francisco viciously attacked LGBTQ marchers on the anniversary of Stonewall. The day after retweeting the Villages video where you have Trump supporters yelling white power, and he's retweeting this in a celebratory way, he then today retweeted a video of a white couple in St. Louis outside their mansion pointing an assault-style weapon and the wife with a pistol at Black Lives Matter protesters, threatening their lives just for walking by. A police SUV in Detroit rammed through protesters at full speed. The U.S. Supreme Court today ruled that the president can fire at will the head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the independent agency Congress created in 2010 to protect consumers from abuses in the banking and financial services industry, abuses that led to the 2008 meltdown. KKK McCanney at the press conference today said that Trump stands against cancel culture, which she says seeks to erase our history. Let's get real. There's a world of difference between poring over someone's life to find one secondary negative thing to cancel them with and canceling the Confederacy, canceling slavery. All of this is happening while a pandemic continues to ravage the globe, and the World Health Organization warns that the worst could be yet to come. Iran issued an arrest warrant for Donald Trump for the illegal murder of Qasem Soleimani and requested Interpol's assistance in carrying it out. Stay tuned to Refuse Fascism for more on this. Today's SCOTUS ruling on abortion is more proof that we must stay in the streets, and we can actually go forward to driving out this whole fascist regime. This is a fragile, small victory worth acknowledging, but if we don't drive these fascists out of power, it will most certainly be lost. This was just a sampling of some of the ways in which fascism has been moving to consolidate its power, unleash its base, and crush its opposition. An emergency is very much in effect, and together, we need to act like it. So I encourage folks to check out refusefascism.org. There's new articles up, including an article by Coco Das, a member of the refusefascism.org editorial board, on the assault on the rule of law. There's more on the recent Supreme Court cases and a poem that we'll be reading later in this live. So be sure to check it out. Thanks to everybody who has already shared this. If you haven't shared the live, make sure that you do. We are getting organized for July 4th, nationwide protest demanding Trump-Pence out now. I want to bring on Chantel from the LA chapter of Refuse Fascism to share our call for July 4th. Call for July 4th. Created in 2010 to protect consumers from abuses in the banking and financial services industry. Abuses that led to the 2000. I think Chantel can hear me. KK. So I'm gonna start reading the call, I think. Maybe Chantel can join us later. So, take to the streets July 4th. Join Refuse Fascism protests to demand this nightmare must end. The Trump-Pence regime must go now. In the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. America is at a serious crossroads. A fierce struggle for the future is underway. Trump is campaigning on openly celebrating and defending the Confederacy with a clear message that he will unleash the violence of the police and military and his heavily armed MAGA shock troops against the movement for Black lives. And I'm going to stop there because I think we're going to bring in Chantel to read the rest of it. will unleash the violence of the police and military and its heavily armed mega troops against the movement for Black Lives. And I'm going to stop there because so I'm going to continue. Again, I apologize for these technical difficulties. I'm going to start from where I stopped. He threatens to toss aside the First Amendment, to jail those who burn the flag, a constitutionally protected act of free speech. He has demeaned mayors of Chicago and Seattle while threatening to send in federal forces to clean up their cities. He has doubled down on his anti-immigrant rants and programs. In the midst of skyrocketing deaths from COVID-19, the Trump-Pence regime petitions the Supreme Court to strike down Obamacare. In his press briefing, Pence urged Americans to pray, but did not once urge them to wear a mask. The regime has the blood of tens of thousands on its hands who have perished due to the regime's science-hating, genocidal dismissal of a global pandemic. This is just in the past week. Stop and think if you can live with all this. The lives of countless more here and around the world are under threat. Trump is not losing an election. He is setting the stage to declare any outcome other than his victory illegitimate, backed up by a GOP willing to rig elections and the violence of the police, military, and bikers for Trump. He is declaring his determination to prevail. The people on the side of humanity must be equally determined to prevail. On July 4th and in the coming weeks, we must take to the streets in growing numbers to demand the Trump-Pence regime must go. Should we fail to take the streets and stay to win, do not think for a second that the fascist agenda of the Trump-Pence regime could not become the law of the land. But the last 4 weeks of sustained protest has also shown us that another future is possible. If the demand that Trump and Pence must go now becomes part of the great rising in the streets against police murder of Black people. Without going all the way to driving out the Trump-Pence regime, the movement for Black lives and every struggle for justice will be crushed. On this July 4th, take to heart the words of the escaped slave and abolitionist Frederick Douglass. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. Power concedes nothing without a demand. Genocide, slavery, the Confederacy, Jim Crow, virulent white supremacy, misogyny, and xenophobia, an American empire that has invaded, subjugated, bombed, and occupied countries around the world. This is the history, and these are the values of Make America Great Again. Hell-bent on exacting revenge against the liberation movements of the 1960s and the hard-won social progress of the last 50 years. Social progress that was only made possible by people courageously taking to the streets and refusing to back down. The upsurge of struggle for Black lives matters a great deal. It must continue to broaden and deepen its determination to win, which includes acting on the recognition that an avowed white supremacist regime poses a mortal threat to Black people and must be driven from power. Refused fascism since its founding has recognized and struggled for the understanding that at the core of this fascist regime is white supremacy, along with hatred of immigrants and women and differently gendered people. These form a triad of the fascist program that must be opposed. At this crossroads, what will you do? Will you continue to accept a fascist America? Will you listen to those who urge on waiting until November for an election that may not come, or working within the normal channels that are being shredded by a regime that sees this as their last chance to consolidate power? Or will you seize on our power in the streets and raise the demand, Trump-Pence out now? Dangerous regimes all over the world are driven out by the people in sustained nonviolent protest demanding the removal of the regime and refusing to go home until their demand is met. To stop an American fascism that threatens the very future of humanity and the planet, the necessary demand is Trump-Pence out now. This is a moment to seize. Let us change the course of history, not for ourselves alone, but for all of humanity. The nightmare must end. The Trump-Pence regime must go. Trump-Pence out now. And that is the call from Refuse Fascism for July 4th. We'd love to hear your plans, so put them in the comments. We want to hear your questions on organizing or on what's in the call. Be sure to write them down. You're watching Inside Without Now, a live brought to you by volunteers with Refuse Fascism. And we're talking about July 4th protests. Wherever you are, whoever you are, getting in the streets demanding Trump-Pence out now. Be sure to check out refusefascism.org to find a protest near you or to let us know what your plans are. And as always, we're going to ask you to donate to help make these plans real, to make these protests happen, to continue them week after week, and in growing numbers and determination. So you can donate at the link below. And I want to bring in Sable from the New York City chapter. Let's welcome Sable.
Hey.
Hi, Sable. Thanks for joining. I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about what you're planning for July 4th in New York City and your thoughts on some of the other things that you've seen happening in response to this call for July 4th from other cities and people that you know.
Okay, great. We actually just had our New York chapter meeting and made our decision, our plan. So we are excited to get the graphic and get the wording out and let people know so that they're able to join us. We are calling for something at Trump International Hotel at 1 p.m. on Saturday, July 4th. And we decided we're going to do a rally, and we'll actually advertise for a speak out as well, and then hopefully go for a march. We're saying there's a march, and we'll see what happens. But we think this is, like, July 4th is a very, listen, people are going to be doing their own whatever things, but people do want to be protesting. They're out in the streets in New York City. They're out every single day. There's something every day. July 4th has a special significance. It would mean a lot if people saw us taking this message of Trump Pence out now right in front of a Trump property and making this demand and calling on all the people who've been out and part of these righteous uprisings, making this part of the demand everywhere they go as well. So that's what New York City is calling for. And it looks like a bunch of different cities have posted. If you go to refusefascism.org, on the main page, there's a little arrow that says times and places. It's right above the call for July 4th. And it's, what do we see? It's right after the call. But we have Boston already has plans. 3:30 to 6 p.m. Honolulu, 9:30 to 10 a.m. They have a big truck, and then people are going to jump on the back of the truck. They're going to go to the beach. That sounds fun. I want to go to Hawaii. Houston has a plan, 1 p.m. as well. Most people are doing early afternoon. LA, 1 p.m., Hollywood and Vine. I'm just going to say Chantel since she's not able to be on. Hollywood and Vine, 1 p.m. I think that's been their spot for the past few weeks. Philly, you guys are doing it later, 6 p.m. City Hall. San Francisco is doing 1 p.m. And Seattle has theirs up, 2 p.m., a rally and a march. So those are the cities that are posted so far, but I think there's a chance we're going to have a DC one. That's being worked out now, and I'm sure there's other cities that just haven't sent in their plans yet, but probably by tonight, maybe tomorrow. But it will give more of a nationwide vision that Refuse Fascism is calling for these protests with the demand Trump Pence out now on July 4th. So people should look out for those. Whatever city you're in, join this. And if you are not in any of these cities, we are still going to tell you that if you go out, you should, if you don't already have a sign, you should make your own saying Trump, Pence out now, refusefascism.org. Let people know there is a group that's raising this demand and is telling and calling on everyone else to raise this demand along with Black Lives Matter and justice for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, to raise this demand as well. Trump, Pence out now. I'm just going to throw in, since I'm already on this roll, if you aren't able to be out, or if you really have heart for what we're doing, you should donate to this. I'm just going to make that very clear right now. I've done a bunch of lives while I'm out on the streets in protest, and people are like, I wish I could be out there with you. You know, I have to be at home. I'm not able to be out there. I really love what you guys are doing. This is really important. You guys give me hope. You guys, you know, make me feel good that there's people out here making this demand. To all those people, whether you're those people right now, or you know those people at home who would be really happy to see this demand being taken widely, donate to it. We want to get these signs in so many people's hands. We want to get these stickers in so many people's hands. We want it to be something where every time you turn on the news and you see these protests, that these signs are in it and people are taking up these chants of Trump, Pence out now. That's how we do it. We need your funds to be able to do that in a bigger way. So please donate. Tell your aunt that's at home that can't go out that she should give to this. People are donating like crazy to a lot of really beautiful causes, really important causes. And some of those places can no longer take donations. They've gotten so many. But we can. Refuse Fascism still needs those funds, so please donate.
Thank you, Sable.
Yeah, no problem.
Those plans sound really exciting for New York, so I hope New York can meet up with Sable and the NYC chapter. Bring your signs, or come, and I'm sure they'll have some for you to hold, and bring your determination to get this regime out now. I did want to let folks know that the LA location has changed. It's still 1 p.m., but it is at Sunset, and I just had it up. Sunset and I'm going to butcher this. Cahuenga. Somebody's going to correct me. But we will be posting that location on all social media platforms. So be sure to look in the comments. Somebody's going to put in the LA location for Saturday. Again, for those of you who are joining, there's nationwide protests happening Saturday, and we need you to be a part of them. You can find a location near you up at Refuse Fascism. There is Boston, Honolulu, Houston, LA, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Seattle, New York City. There's plans developing for DC and Orlando. Let us know where your plans are. I did want to let answer one comment was about was from somebody who wants to organize, and so I think it was in Bates and Rouge. I think was where the person was from, but wherever you're from, if you don't have a Refuse Fascism chapter near you, we're calling on you to take this up and to take this out. All you need is a little bit of courage, a lot of determination that you refuse to accept a fascist America, that you won't tolerate another day of this nightmare, and this demand. And we're calling for you to do something simple, but do something bold and bring more people into it. You can find signs that you can print out or order at refusefascism.org. You can make your own that say Trump, Pence out now, and you go out to a busy place where people are going to be on Saturday, and you invite other people to join you, and you let us know where you're planning on doing it, and we will spread the word. You can do some extra things. You can get a bullhorn. You could do it in a car caravan and decorate your car and drive around with that. You can do a banner drop and get a couple friends and make a banner that says Trump Pence out now, and hold it over an overpass or a busy spot where people are. You could go to a transit hub and do this pledge that I'm going to show you, or you can do a die-in. You could chalk up a park with these demands. Basically, be creative. The most important thing is that you join other people in making this demand. Trump Pence out now. And you can print out the call for July 4th and read parts of it in a public spot. There's many ways to do this. And there's a lot of tools for you to do this right at refusefascism.org. We're here to help you and brainstorm ideas and connect you with others in your area. So be sure to reach out to info@refusefascism.org and to check out refusefascism.org for resources. So I want to pull up the pledge and show you something that you can do wherever you are. July 4th, take a new pledge. So this July 4th, we're taking a new pledge, and you're looking at it. If we can get rid of the find a protest near you, there we go. And basically you just take this to a busy place. If this is all you do, this is a great first step to being an organizer. There's a protest happening near you, and there's a lot of people. You can go there and bring your Trump Pence out now sign and do this pledge with people that are there. You can do a chant, Trump Pence out now, something very simple. Or you can do this in a park or near a supermarket, wherever people are. You can go to where people are and do this pledge with people who you get gathered around, who you say you have a sign. Join me if you want to refuse to accept a fascist America, or talk to me if you want to refuse to accept a fascist America, or something like that. Bring people around you, and you tell people, we're going to take a new pledge today. And then you say, this is a repeat after me pledge. And you put your fist in the air, and you ask them to put their fists in the air too. And you say, we pledge that we will not stand aside while there is still a chance to stop a regime, and they repeat it, that imperils humanity and the earth itself, and they repeat it. In the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. We will stay in the streets, bring others with us, and not stop until this demand is won. Trump Pence out now. And then you can repeat Trump Pence out now. And maybe I'll bring in Sable to do it with me. Is that okay, Sable?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I can remember it. Let's see. Can you take it down, Mark? Thanks. Okay.
Hold on. Can you finish this? Okay.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. So again, you're saying to people, wherever you decide to do your protest, we're going to take a pledge together. Fists up. And then they'll put their fists up. We pledge. That we will not stand aside.
That we will not step aside.
While there is still a chance. To stop a regime. That imperils humanity.
And
the planet itself. In the name of humanity. We refuse to accept.
We refuse to accept
a fascist America.
a fascist America.
We will stay in the streets.
We will stay in the street.
Bring others with us.
Bring others with us.
And not stop.
And not stop.
And not stop.
And not stop.
Until this demand is won.
Until this demand is won.
Trump, Pence, out now.
Trump, Pence, out now.
Trump, Pence, out now.
Trump, Pence, out now.
So that's what you can do. So we want to hear what your plans are. Let us know. And I want to share a poem that a supporter wrote for Refuse Fascism. So I think Sable's going to share that with us. And while she's sharing, I'm going to take a look at your questions to make sure that we've spoken to everything.
Okay. Let me pull up the poem. Sorry. Also, Chantel, who couldn't be here, really wanted us to talk about how important this call is and that no one else is really calling for the removal of the regime the way Refuse Fascism is, and making this a really important demand. So I don't know if we have time to get into it, but that was something she wanted to bring up. All right, here is the poem, and this is not my poem, so forgive me. Hang on one second, sorry. Now is the time to seize this hour, to drive out the fascists from seat of power. Defiant, united, we make this demand. In the name of humanity, we take this stand. Now is the time to stay on the streets, inspired to accomplish all the feats. From thousands to millions, we need to grow. And Trump-Pence regime has got to go. Now is the time for the whole community to not let go of this opportunity. When the glorious uprising has turned the tide and millions have initiative on their side. Now is the time, but the time is short. We have to go all out and cannot abort. The people are suffering, there's terrible pain. The sacrifices made must not go in vain. And it's anonymous, so I can't say who wrote it. But thank you.
And if you think that this is the time to seize, then we encourage you again to donate generously so that this movement can spread. Chantel, who had some issues and couldn't be with us, I want, to underscore what she wrote. There is so much importance in the demand Trump-Pence out now. Where will the protests go? Will they be crushed? That's up to us. Where do they need to go? Where do these protests need to go? In the call from Refuse Fascism, it lays out where these protests need to go in terms of the removal of this regime. And a repudiation of everything that they stand for. If that doesn't happen, all positive futures will be foreclosed upon. And she wrote, no one but Refuse Fascism is organizing to drive out this regime now. And it's true. And it's not going to happen unless the millions who in their hearts hate everything that this regime stands for, hate the bigotry, hate the science denial, hate the attacks on the rule of law, the attacks on women, the attacks on immigrants, who see the danger posed to the planet itself by this regime, to get out and fight like the future is on the line, because it is. And so everybody who feels that way, donate, sign up to organize a protest. Find a protest near you and join it. Some of the other comments that I wanted to share were in LA, we want to bring back the giant Trump-Pence out now letters next to the Black Lives Matter letters on Hollywood Boulevard next to Trump's star. That's an awesome idea. People asked about the podcast. Again, I hope that someone can post the link so that people can listen. It is on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts. It's a great question. People have been talking about making art. July 4th is a great day to do public art together, demanding Trump Pence out now. People, one person wrote, Mark wrote, Trump is one stubborn mule. The rest of the world wants them gone too. It's so true. It's so true. It's not about just American lives. It's about the future of the whole planet. And so we need to do that within our heart. Can I make art to support the movement instead of donating? Yes, please make art, Diego. And Diego, be sure to connect up with Refuse Fascism New York City. You can find their information on refusefascism.org. People are asking how to connect. Make sure that you check refusefascism.org to connect up with a city near you. If you don't see your city, let's bring this message, let's bring this demand and this movement to where you are. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, in the streets, July 4th. And then we're gonna go forward. In the coming weeks, we need to take to the streets in growing numbers to demand the Trump-Pence regime must go. So we hope to hear about your plans soon. We want to see it in Louisiana. We want to see it in Chicago and Atlanta. We want to see it in Texas. Wherever you're joining from, let's bring it. Let's bring it to your city. Let's bring it to your town. Let's bring it across the country. And let's not stop until this demand is won, because the future is on the line. And now really is a moment to seize, not squander, for humanity. So join us in the streets on Saturday. Donate right now, whatever you can, as much as you can, so that we can project this and bring people into the streets. And I'm going to keep talking. If we can take that down. Thanks. So we hope that you're going to join us. And if you are unable to, that you will donate. And DM us if you need help. If you need help organizing something in your area, be sure to DM us. Follow us at Refuse Fascism. And be sure to tune in on Wednesday. We'll be back 8 p.m. We're going to have a discussion with Jeff Charlotte. And we're going to be talking about the cult of Trump, his rallies as church, and his words as gospel with Jeff Charlotte. So tune in on Wednesday, and we will see you in the streets Saturday. Be sure to send us your plans and reach out if you need help organizing. In the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. Trump Pence out now.